Alright, so continuing on with the Cartoon Network tier list, I think what we have next is 16. 16 is a show I used to watch quite a bit as well. Like back when it aired in Cartoon Network back in the day, like in the late 2000s. And I definitely enjoyed it. I think preliminarily I'm putting it there, right there. I remember that I thought that the characters were really entertaining and like the writing was also very clever and funny. It was like, I mean, it was like the same, not like the exact same team as Total Drama Island, but I believe it had like a lot of similar, I think of the same creators and a lot of like the similar staff between them, and also like a lot of overlapping voice actors between them. I'll be honest, I haven't watched all of 16, but I've seen like a good amount of it when I was younger, and I did enjoy what I've seen from it. But I guess I don't really have a lot to say about it, I suppose. Next up is the Life and Times of Juniper Lee. That one I'm also going to be putting in the liked tier. I'm going to be putting it, from what I remember, probably here. But I think I might also bump Totally Spies up a little bit to there, I think. So about Life and Times of Juniper Lee. I believe back in the day, a lot of people compared this show and American Dragon Jake Long from Disney Channel because they are like had fairly similar premises and both released the same year back in like 2005. And I could see why people compared the two, but if I'm being honest, from what I remember, I actually think I enjoyed The Life and Times of Juniper Lee a little more of the two. I don't know. I remember it having like to me like a little better dialogue, more interesting characters. I mean, I think I remember the overarching story of American Dragon Jake Long to be a little more interesting than Juniper Lee. But I think Juniper Lee was an overall like more balanced experience to me. I don't know. I think early on I just got kind of annoyed by the dialogue from Jake Long specifically. I mean, I don't really care that much about it anymore, like in a bad way, I guess. But like I don't dislike American Dragon Jake Long. It just like found some of the dialogue to be a little like interesting. Let's just say. All right. Then that brings us to Camp Lazlo. This show, I think going to be putting at the top of like tier so far. Camp Lazlo, made by Joe Murray, the same guy who made Rocco's Modern Life for Nickelodeon back in the day, back in the 90s. Yeah, I thought the show was really funny, really creative and fun with its visual gags and everything. It just had like a very entertaining, very charming atmosphere about it, I suppose. Like the summer camp location did a lot for it, I think. It just like made it like a very fairly unique from everything else on the channel at the time, and just like I don't know. I just thought it was really funny. That was the main thing about it. It was just like incredibly entertaining to me. But yeah, that's where I put that. Oh boy, Johnny Test. What do I even say about Johnny Test that hasn't already been said? I don't think I hate it. I would say that you know what? When I was younger, I kind of enjoyed the earlier episodes, so I think just to be charitable towards it, I'm gonna put it at the top of find okay tier because it's not all bad. Like specifically like the first like season or two, I remember actually fairly enjoying back when I was a kid. Like specifically like back when they still had like the I believe it was still hand drawn animation instead of like flash animation, which they changed over in like season 2 or 3, I believe. But yeah, it's just like, and the I guess the premise is also kind of derivative for like a cartoon of this era. Like it's not too dissimilar to something like Dexter's Lab or Jimmy Neutron, but you just like swapped the genders of like the who the scientists were and who like the sibling was in those situations. I mean, I thought it was like mildly amusing and had some like decently fun concepts. I mean, later on, I do think it got like a really repetitive and dull, but early on, I think the concept was like good enough to like I don't know last them at least a couple seasons of like decent entertainment, but nothing more than that. I don't think. Yeah, I think that's yeah, I think that's basically what I have to say with Johnny Test. Moving on to Robot Boy. This is one I did watch a decent amount of when I was younger, but if I'm being honest, I remember liking it, but I don't think I remember enough about it to rank it properly. So I'm just going to put it down here as well, I think. And these tiers are actually a lot bigger than I actually expected them to be, I think. Anyway, oh yeah, My Gym Partner's a Monkey. I definitely have some stuff to say about this show. I think that I'm going to put it also in the find okay tier. Like, right above Johnny Test. I do think that this show had it had some funny moments and a kind of clever premise to it, but honestly, looking back on it, thinking about it again, I don't dislike it or anything, but I just don't find anything specifically really stand out or impressive about it, I suppose. Interestingly enough, if memory serves me correct, I believe this My Gym Partner's Monkey was from the same people who would later bring us the Hub's Littlest Pet Shop. Let me look that up to see if I'm if that's correct information. Yes, that is correct. And of the two, I think I actually kind of preferred their attempt with Littlest Pet Shop. Honestly, this I do still I find it okay. I think it has some decent characters and some decent jokes, but nothing too incredible to write home about. I guess those creators just had something about like animals and pets. I guess I don't know, just an interest in that. All right, moving on to Ben 10. Ben 10 is a show I absolutely did like, but I actually did prefer a lot more of like the more comedic cartoons for Cartoon Network back in the day. Not like I had anything against Ben 10 specifically, but I absolutely still did enjoy Ben 10, but not as much as a lot of other people. I don't think, even though I don't know. So I think I'd personally rank Ben 10. I'll put it top of the like tier for now. I think because I do think it has a very clever premise, very interesting main power for the main character, specifically like in like a superhero story because like having one character with so many different like forms and powers to choose from is like a very it's just a very good vehicle to differentiate up like fight scenes and stuff in an action cartoon, I believe. Like each different form had like a different kind of fight scene they'd be able to do with them. Like I don't think all of them are fighters. I don't think Gray Matter was really much of a fighter, but most of them were like heat blast to shoot fire at the opponents and fly around using this heat energy and forearms are strong so you could just like pick up and throw people and punch things and stuff like that and the accelerate was really fast so just like basically whatever the fight scene needed they was able to change. I mean, no, in Ben 10 there was a thing where he'd sometimes get the wrong aliens and get the wrong ones because I forgot exactly why it was, but the Omnitrix would glitch sometimes and you get the right alien. I guess another thing I have to say about Ben 10 is I think the characters, I like most of the characters, but if I'm being honest, at least in the original series, I didn't really care for Ben much. He just kind of felt like a kind of standard protagonist to me. I think I actually liked him a little better in Alien Force now that I remember it. And I remember him kind of going back to his more like, I don't know, childish, self-important attitude, at least for the beginning of Ultimate Alien, as far as I remember. Also, when it comes to like Omniverse, I guess I don't think I had as much as a problem with like the art style, like the new art style direction as that show as a lot of other people did. I still think I found it. I don't know. It was different, but I don't think it was bad. I don't know if I were to do like a quick mini rankings of my thoughts on the original four Ben 10 series, I guess, even though I don't think I've seen all of any of them, I've seen a decent amount of all of them. And honestly, I do legitimately kind of think, from if memory serves, the original was my favorite, followed by Alien Force, and between Ultimate Alien and Omniverse, I think I don't know. Those ones are about even for me, honestly. I might slightly give the edge to Omniverse because Ultimate Alien just kind of feels like Alien Force again, so that gives Omniverse like some edge of interest over Ultimate Alien to me, I guess. I mean, Ultimate Alien also had the Ultimate Alien forms, I suppose, but those were pretty cool. But I don't know, not much else to say about it beyond that, I think. So yeah, I like Ben 10. It's pretty good. Hey, what's next? Oh yeah, Squirrel Boy. Squirrel Boy, I think, is going to join our okay tier, but where exactly am I going to put it? I think I'll put it below Johnny Test, above Baby Looney Tunes, I think. So, Squirrel Boy, this show, for those who might not know, is like it's from the creator of the '90s adult cartoon series Duckman, I believe. Let me look that up just to make sure that's correct information. Yes, yes, it is. So basically, the show was about this boy and his pets. Was it his pet squirrel? Or was it just like a talking squirrel that he knew? I don't exactly remember. But it was a boy named Andy and his squirrel Rodney. And they would just go on like random misadventures, hijinks ensue. There is like I remember there's like a lot of attempts at humor in this show, but I don't remember if I found it that funny or not. I didn't dislike it, but I don't know how much. I don't know. I remember watching it, but I don't remember that much about it, like beyond like the basic premise. Even though I did watch a decent amount of it, I guess it just ultimately wasn't that memorable to me, I suppose. I could kind of see why this is not one of the more popular Cartoon Network shows. Also, I believe it's one of the hardest Cartoon Network shows to find to watch. I don't think it is the absolute hardest, though. I think something like Mike, Lou, and Og and Sheep in the Big City might also give you like a struggle in the department, but Squirrel Boy is definitely up there for that. All right, what we got next? After that, we have the Class of 3000, which I am going to put. You know what? I'm gonna put like at the bottom of really like tier for the Class of 3000, honestly, because this show I genuinely really liked, and back in the day, I distinctly remember when being disappointed when I remembered there weren't any new episodes of it coming out, and then later on I looked it up and like, oh, that's because it was canceled for at the time what I thought was like copyright reasons, but after looking into that, I figured out like apparently the whole entire thing where Cartoon Network was being sued by a different person who had a similar cartoon idea. Apparently, I think that was the story that I've heard before, but I looked into it and I couldn't find any basis for that. So I'm not sure if that was actually true. I mean, Andre 3000 recently announced that he was interested in bringing Class of 3000 back. I hope that happens, but I'm honestly not sure how likely that is. I don't know. I really hope it does though, because this show I remember had really, really great music, a really distinct, memorable, fun art style, and a lot of very entertaining, likable characters. It's just, I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Like some of the, like of course the highlight of the show for me was the songs. The songs were like what like really pulled the series together and is like what its main focus. I mean, it's a music teacher teaching a music class, so I think it would probably make sense for the music to be the main focus of what was going on with it. Like off the top of my head, I remember some of my favorite songs from there being like Banana Zoo, I Am a Ninja, the blues song from the first episode. I also remember really liking. Uh, Little D making a deal with the devil. That song was very, very interesting to me when I was young. I thought I was like, ooh, this is kind of edgy, kind of cool. I don't know. I don't know. Class of 2000, really solid, really fun show. Honestly, I think I might also put Skunk Fu in this category. I saw a couple episodes of it when I was younger, but I don't really have that much to say about it. I don't think it was fine, I guess, but I don't think I have seen enough of it to properly rate it. I think I saw more of Robot Boy than that. But I don't know. George of the Jungle, I definitely saw enough to rate, and honestly, from what I remember, I don't think I had really much of anything going for it. It just kind of felt like a basic, bare bones Flash cartoon. Like even back when I watched it, I don't think particularly remember anything from it. Like no episodes come to mind. The only thing I really remember about it was the theme song. The theme song was just like a revised version of the original theme song of the old cartoon that this one is a reboot of. Beyond that, honestly, I think the art style for what it's going for is fine, but it just wasn't my favorite. But also just like I think this is at the point where I could was able to tell what shows were hand drawn and what were flash animated. I mean, you can't really tell it all the time. If something in Flash is really well animated, then you won't be able to tell as much, like something like Motor City or something like that. But you could tell when a show was just like using Flash cheaply, and I do distinctly remember this show looking cheap. I don't know. Especially since it didn't really have much of anything else going for it either, I don't think. I don't know. I don't really have that much to say about George of the Jungle. What's next? Chowder. Love, 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 love Chowder. I'm going to put Chowder. Genuinely speaking, up in love tier. I think I'm putting it there. I think that looks good for Chowder. So Chowder is genuinely, I think, a contender for the funniest Cartoon Network show ever. Up there alongside probably like Ed, Ed and Eddie, Billy and Mandy, and even though I didn't get to it yet, Gumball. Chowder is definitely up there because like the wild screwball comedy that the show has is just like really memorable, really funny. It's just really creative. Like some of these jokes in Chowder specifically are just like some of my favorite jokes that this channel has ever had. Like a bunch of their fourth wall breaks, and I don't know, it just kills me. Also, another thing I really like about Chowder actually is the art style. Like the fact that each and every character had like a pattern associated with them, and like whenever they'd move, you'd see the pattern moving over their clothes. I honestly, when I was younger, I didn't really know how they got that effect to work, but I really appreciate that they did because it gave the show like a memorable edge to it visually. And they don't really have to do that, but I think it's appreciated like extra effort to put into a show like this. I mean, alongside like the puppetry they'd have occasionally and the stop motion, like Chowder was just basically like a creative cartoon through and through. It kind of just did whatever it wanted and just went off the walls, and I really, really appreciate it because of that. It's great. All right, what's next? After that, we got Total Drama Island. One of my one of the cartoons I've probably rewatched and thought about the most, not more than anything else on this list, but it's probably in the top 10 in that regard. It's probably, even though some of the other cartoons on this list I probably like more, or I think are higher quality, I'm legitimately just gonna put Total Drama there. I don't know. I do really, really enjoy the first season of Total Drama. I think it's just a really, really good like reality TV competition show parody. And as it went on, I think as it went on, you could tell it kind of like wasn't as good later on, like specifically in the original run. Like Island, I thought was fantastic. Action, I thought was fine. I actually never really rewatched Action compared to some of the other seasons to go back to it, probably still holds up relatively well because I remember World Tour distinctly, and I remember really, really liking World Tour when it was coming out. I also remember liking Revenge of the Island quite well, honestly. But then after that, we had All Stars and Pacato Island, which I don't really like nearly as much. Honestly, Pacato Island is like whatever, and All Stars legitimately has a lot of writing flaws that I don't really appreciate. So honestly, yeah, I think the series kind of did dip in quality as it went along. Unless you count like stuff like Redonkulous Race and the reboot, because I did actually also really enjoy Redonkulous Race. It was honestly probably my favorite season of the show, like since World Tour at least. And the reboot seasons are honestly debatable, like for like some of the best seasons the show I think I ever had too. And then there's Dramarama, which I honestly haven't seen a ton of. Is Dramarama down here? I've seen a handful of this. It's Dramarama. I guess might as well rank it now. I think I'm gonna put Dramarama in the meh tier, but I think above George of the Jungle because at least I remember some more things that happened in Total Dramarama compared to George of the Jungle. Might just be because that Total Dramarama came out a lot more recently. Yeah, it might be a recency bias kind of thing in my brain, but you know. All right, next up is The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. This is a show I actually, when this first came out, I don't think I really focused on watching it. I think I just like I don't know. I think when I was younger, it kind of I think the art style kind of put me off from it or something for some reason, but I've gone back to watch some episodes of the show after the fact, and I actually do legitimately quite like it. But where would I put it? I think I'd put Flapjack legitimately here. Because I do think the art style of the show is really creative. It could be really funny and memorable and just like interesting to watch. I don't know. It just had like a very. I think the strongest thing about Flapjack was probably the art style and the location, which added a lot to like the overall theming of the show. Like Stormalong Harbor is like a really, really distinctive location. But honestly, more than anything else, I think Flapjack. The most interesting thing about it is the fact that this is like the jumping off point for almost all of the creators that Cartoon Network would bring in to make shows for them in like the early 2010s. Like Flapjack is the show where like a lot of those people originally came from. So even though I do like the show, I think I appreciate what came after it more than the show itself. I think I said a similar thing about Dexter's Lab, I believe. Yeah, I guess Cartoon Network has a couple shows that kind of feel like nexus points of creative uh, minds, and just Dexter's Lab and Flapjack, and I guess also Two Stupid Dogs just kind of feel like those kinds of points where like, oh, this is like Like for Two Stupid Dogs and Dexter's Lab, like this is like the original like creative boom for the channel, and Flapjack almost feels like a reinvigoration of the creative boom. Even though I do like Cartoon Network throughout the 2000s quite a bit, a lot of people thought that kind of fell off like after like in like the mid 2000s. I don't think I necessarily agree with that myself, but there was definitely another spike in quality for the channel at 2010. I don't know why or how that happened, but I do think it is legitimately noticeable. I mean, of course, I don't think there's any CN real stuff on here, but honestly, I'm not even sure if I'd want to rank it even if it was on here. But I think I should at the very least acknowledge CN Real's existence because I think from where we're on this list chronologically, that's where they would have kind of fallen into. And I think when it comes to CN Real, I did enjoy some of those shows when I was younger, but I don't think I'd ever go back to watching any of them or want to go back to watch anything like Destroy Will Destroy or Dude What Would Happen or Brain Rush or maybe Brain Rush. No, probably not. Brain Rush had kind of a fun idea. Maybe I thought it was kind of a fun idea when I was a kid, at least. I don't know. Answering trivia questions on a roller coaster and winning money. I don't know. Sounded fun when I was a kid, I guess. But as a TV show, thinking about it in retrospect, I don't know how creative or interesting that is, but I don't know. Okay, now to the back to the shows on the actual list. The Secret Saturdays is another show I liked. Didn't watch all of, but I've seen a decent amount of it. And I would say I would put Secret Saturdays probably probably here. I like it. Honestly, it feels like that. I believe that Secret Saturdays probably has a decent amount of alumni from Ben 10. I'm not exactly 100% sure about that, but it kind of feels like it's a very similar kind of vibe for an action cartoon. Like Cartoon Network had like a certain like vibe that they wanted their action cartoons to follow at that point, and like Secret Saturdays seemed like to I don't know continue that like feeling that Ben 10 started, I suppose. But my favorite thing about Secret Saturdays is the fact that all like the creatures they were finding, or most of them, I believe, were based on like real life cryptids or urban legends or like different myths from around the world. And I think that's a very clever and interesting premise for a show. I did like Secret Saturdays. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I did appreciate it. I also think I did see the Ben 10 Omniverse Secret Saturdays crossover. That was very interesting. I mean, it's been a long time since I saw it. I honestly don't really remember what I thought about the episode, honestly, but I just remember it existing, I guess, and I just wanted to mention that. All right, what's next? Batman, the Brave and the Bold. This might be controversial to some people, but I am going to put that here. I legitimately, from what I have seen, I like Batman the Brave and the Bold more than Batman the Animated Series. Like, critically, I think Batman the Animated Series might be more consistent, but I do appreciate a good dash of comedy in my cartoons, and I think Batman the Animated Series is just like the purest incarnation of like the like bring back the old era of Batman in like a very comic booky comedic fashion. And like there was a lot of deep cut DC characters at the time that I first learned about through Batman the Brave and the Bold that are some of my favorites to this day. Like characters like Plastic Man and Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. Like there's quite a few characters that I learned from Batman the Brave and the Bold, and I think it's a very funny, very creative, very interesting, memorable take on Batman. Honestly, it's probably one of my is it my favorite Batman cartoon? I think legitimately that Batman Brave and the Bold might just be my favorite Batman cartoon of all time. I mean, I haven't seen all of Batman's cartoons, so that might be me speaking more from an experience with his cartoons as a whole than anything else. But I don't know. I just really, really remember enjoying Batman the Brave and the Bold. All right, what's next? League of Super Evil. I remember liking the show fine when I was younger. Where would I put it though? I think I'd put it here. Honestly, I think this show had a kind of fun premise, but if I'm being honest, I don't exactly remember much of anything specifically about it. Like, I thought the main characters had fun concepts and, like, fun dichotomies from, like, what I can recall, but I can't really remember much of anything specific about the show besides, like, the theme song and, like, the general characteristics of the main characters. I don't know. The main character kind of reminded me of Zim from Invader Zim, though. I don't think he shared a similar voice actor. I don't think it was Richard Horvitz who voiced him, though. I don't think so. I guess I don't really have that much to say about League of Super Evil. It was fine from what I remember. Alright, what's next? The Garfield Show. This is like the show, like, later on when I was, like, sick and home from school when I was younger. If this show was on, I'd kind of be like, really? This one? I don't know. I mean, I don't hate it or anything, but honest to goodness, I think I'm going to put it. Eh, at the bottom of OK tier. Honestly, I don't really remember anything specific about this show, if I'm being honest. But I do remember watching a good amount of it when I was younger. I just remember, like, kind of being neutral while watching it, I guess, when I was younger. It just kind of was on, and I would just sit there and consume it because I wanted to watch something, I guess. And this is, like, before, like, streaming services and stuff. So, like, you had to kind of, like, watch whatever's in the TV unless you, like, I don't know, was like an early adopter to Netflix or had like DVDs or whatever at the time. But otherwise, you just had like if you wanted to watch something, you had to watch what was on TV. I don't know. I think Garfield is due for another cartoon. I think Nickelodeon owns Garfield now. They should do something with that. Besides, they did the movie like last year, but I think they should do like a new cartoon for him. I think that would be interesting. All right, what's next? Next up, we got Adventure Time. And that immediately shoots to first place so far. Adventure Time is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's one of the most creative, memorable, interesting, entertaining, fun, all the adjectives to describe Adventure Time. Like, I don't know. It's just like Ooh is such a boundless world of creativity to me where you can do almost anything they want. The writers could like literally do almost anything that would just fit because Adventure Time had a world that was designed in a way to just like do that. And like over time, even though like early on it was just like mainly like these little like slice of life adventures. And I thought it was like really entertaining and creative at the time too, but like as it went on, like the show had more depth and more characterization and more character development, and as over the years it's just like, oh, these are like fully fleshed out in-depth characters. Like when we get to stuff like Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake. Actually, are Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake on here? Huh, they're not. Anyways, I think I probably would have ranked them really high anyway, so I think it would have been kind of redundant to rank Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake differently anyways. Probably would have just like stuffed the top tier with just more Adventure Time stuff, so I don't think that would have been exactly necessary. But yeah, like especially like later on with the character development of characters like Marceline and Simon and Ice King. I don't know. It just like was absolutely wonderful. Like I Remember You is one of the best cartoon episodes ever made. And I kind of like every single time I watch that episode again, I just tear up again every single time. It's just so well crafted. Such a good episode. Such a good TV show, honestly. I could talk about Adventure Time all day. But there's some more shows on this tier list, so I should probably move on. But Adventure Time, genuinely one of the best cartoons ever made. I'm gonna stop to get a drink real quick. What's next? We got Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated, which, from what I remember, I really liked. But now that I think about it, I don't think I've seen enough of it to properly rank. I mean, I saw a couple episodes of it back in the day, and I really, really enjoyed them. But to be fair, like the rest of the shows on this list, I don't think I could properly rank it. Even though, from what I've seen, I remember it being really, really good. I should really go back and watch that show like in full sometime. I think. All right, next up, oh, Generator X. This is another show I remember really liking back in the day. I never watched all of it, but I did see a decent amount of the episodes, at least in one of like the early run of it, and I remember quite enjoying it. Like I think you could tell this is like the same creative team behind Ben 10. Like I think they're called like their collective is called Man of Action. Like it has very similar DNA to Ben 10, but like the main difference being like the location and how the main character generates his powers. I believe from what I remember, like Generex is like in this almost like post-apocalyptic world full of like creatures and monsters and mutated people and stuff. And then Rex had this power called nanites where he would be able to just like use these little like micro machines to like create weapons for himself, and he would create like these like giant like jetpack wings or like these giant fists or like these laser cannons or like laser swords and that kind of stuff, and I thought that was really cool. Where would I place Generator though? I think from what I remember really enjoying it. I think preliminarily I'm going to put it like here. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for Generator X. Also, Generator X is an awesome theme song. I love Generator X's theme song. All right, moving on. Regular show. This is legitimately another all-time favorite of mine. It's definitely going in the top tier, but where? It's not beating Adventure Time, but I think I'm putting it second place. Yeah, I think regular show is going second place so far. It was just really, really funny to me. I genuinely think regular show is one of the shows I watched that kind of like formed my sense of humor almost. It was just like I don't know. Like the like juxtaposition between like the title and the content of the show, I think is like really really funny because regular show is honestly, if you think about it, is kind of a weird title for a show because of the implication of like oh it's called a regular show, nothing's gonna happen in that show, but then like oh they're like every single one of the adventures causes like something weird to happen like them having to like fight a giant video game monster, like do like a song competition against like a sentient like uh mixtape, or like play a basketball game against the king of basketball. It was just like all these like creative, over the top, memorable like episode premises. Honestly, I think regular show might have some of my favorite episode concepts for anything this channel's ever done. It was just like they almost always had like a specific idea of something they wanted to like parody or deconstruct or just reference, and I think that made a bunch of the episodes of regular show specifically like really memorable and stand out. But I also think regular show has really interesting characters because early on it was mostly just like they're like there to be funny and like comedic and have like those like kind of like comedic character dichotomies between the different characters, like Mordecai and Rigby with like their dude bro like college friends kind of thing, and like Benson like as their boss, like getting really angry at them slacking off and stuff like that, and like Pops being this like naive old man who is kind of like gullible, and Skips being like Skips. I love Skips. Him being like this like guru who like knows everything, but he's also like one of the strongest people in their world. And also, Muscle Man is just like one of the funniest cartoon characters ever created. He's just like he's kind of an asshole, but he cracks me up. But as the show went on, they actually decided to like develop and flesh out these characters in like really great ways for some of these characters. I think early on in regular show, I thought Benson was a really good comedic foil to Mordecai and Rigby, but as the show went on, Benson eventually actually became my favorite character because I actually think he legitimately got great character development. I mean, I think some other characters did too, like Rigby. Also, I think had great character development, and Mordecai had he had something happen to him. Like I'm not sure what happened to Mordecai can be called character development, but it was definitely something. I don't know. Don't be a Mordecai. Love regular show. All right, what's next? Mad. Mad is interesting because all the show was just like a bunch of parodies. Like I know it was based on like Mad magazine, which also is like a magazine full of like a bunch of different parodies of like everything in entertainment. And like Mad the cartoon was just like a TV show form of that. So they just like parody kind of whatever they want. But if I'm being honest, the quality of the show is kind of all over the place. I thought some of the shorts are great, but some of the shorts are kind of like really bad or really boring. It just kind of like was like a hit or miss kind of show. It really depended like on the quality of the individual shorts. But I do think that Mad legitimately had like quite a few good shorts to it. Like specifically, I remember Jorge Gutierrez, like the creator of El Tigre and Book of Life, did some shorts for the show. And I always remember really liking his shorts for it. And also, of course, the Spy versus Spy segments were really funny. But it being like a variety like short show like this just really made it like depending on the clip, and like if that like specific premise for that specific clip was good or not was really like made or broke it, I guess. I think though I'm gonna put it in the okay tier, but I think I'm going to put it here. Yeah, I think that looks good. All right, what's next? Robotomy. I've seen a couple episodes of Robotomy actually. I believe Robotomy is from the same person who made Super Jail for Adult Swim. I can honestly see why I didn't make it very long though. Like to me, like the animation and art style, like there was like a lot of detail put in the art for the show, but it just wasn't a very appealing art style, and I don't remember the characters being fairly like memorable either. Which is interesting because I think Super Jail has a really striking, really interesting art style. This one just doesn't capture the same feeling to me, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember hating it though. I remember thinking it was fine when I watched it. It's just like almost none of it stuck with me. And I think with that being said, I think I'm gonna put it here probably. Bottom of okay, I guess. I mean, as I said, I didn't dislike it or anything. I just don't really have that much to say about it. Young Justice. I've seen a decent amount of Young Justice when I was younger, but I haven't seen all of it. But I have seen like at least a dozen or so episodes, so I think I can actually talk with this one. So, talk I shall. Of like the DC cartoons that were like aired on this channel back in the day, I don't think I watched nearly as much as this as like Teen Titans or Batman the Brave and the Bold, but I still do remember really enjoying from what I saw from it. That being said, if I loved it, I think I would have sought out to watch more of the show. So I think I'm going to put it here for now. I mean, as I said, I did enjoy what I saw from it, and like I do think that like had like really good characters, a fairly interesting story. I mean, I think when I was watching, it was still like fairly episodic, just like doing like different DC related shenanigans in each and every episode. And I do know they get into like a story eventually, but I don't think I ever watched that far. I watched like the first like I watched like random snippets of like the first season, but I know for a fact I've watched like at least like a dozen or so episodes. I guess I don't really have that much to say about Young Justice, but I do remember enjoying it. Probably should go back around to watching more of it at some point. Problem solvers. I did remember watching a couple show like episodes of this show back in the day, and not specifically for good reasons, more just for morbid curiosity. And if I'm being honest, this is one of my least favorite cartoons to look at ever. It's like I'm gonna. I know it might be a little harsh to put anything down here because each and every single like piece of like animation created was had to be made by like a passionate, dedicated team to like put it into the world, or else it wouldn't exist. And I know for a fact the creator behind the show was really passionate about his idea for it. But I'm sorry, it just didn't work for me. It's like it was just like very random, incoherent nonsense of stories and scripts, and the animation art when art style just like the animation was like fairly stilted and cheap from what I remember, and the art style is just like it was definitely a creative choice to make like the colors as loud and clashing as possible. I guess it's just not a pleasant show to look at, nor is the character design like up my alley whatsoever. I don't know. Not a fan of problem solvers. What's next? Oh, Looney Tunes show. This one I really like. So I guess I should put it in the tier I called really like. I I think I'm gonna put it at the top of this tier, honestly. It might be weird to say, but I think that the Looney Tunes show is actually my favorite Looney Tunes cartoon of all time. Because like you think like putting like these high like the over the top like cartoon characters in a more mundane situation might like make it less funny, but honestly to me it actually makes things more entertaining because like if they're like always like in the comedic like in the classic Looney Tunes shorts you always expected like something like comedically over the top to happen, and that was I don't know. I I just think that Looney Tunes show I think just had like more going for it, like story and character wise, than like some of the other Looney Tunes stuff around it. Like I enjoy like most of the different Looney Tunes shows that came out over the years, like the classic shorts. Like I also did enjoy like Wabbit or like the new Looney Tunes cartoons, like from Pete Brownguard as well. But Looney Tunes shows like sitcom like premise, I think just like did a lot for it, and it was also just like really funny. I think Daffy Duck has always been kind of a funny character, but I remember him being like specifically hilarious in the Looney Tunes show specifically. I don't know what about like him in this show specifically really cracked me up, but it did. I mean, there was like some interesting like ways they adapted some of the Looney Tunes characters in this show, like specifically like what they did with like Taz and the Witch and Gossamer. which it was definitely a different take, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing for that to happen. I don't know. Looney Tunes show is just really, really funny. All right, what's next? The Amazing World of Gumball. That goes up to here. I legitimately think that The Amazing World of Gumball, let me look at this real quick just to clarify the statement I'm about to make. Yep, I think that's accurate. The Amazing World of Gumball, I think, is the funniest cartoon from Cartoon Network in the 2010s. It was just like so creative, so funny. Like, honestly, I think The Amazing World of Gumball might have given me more laughs than any other Cartoon Network show. Debatable with maybe Ed, Ed, and Eddie. I don't know. But I do also think that like The Amazing World of Gumball is one of the most creative Cartoon Network shows ever as well. Specifically, like just look at it. Like the fact that it mixes like art styles, like some of the characters are like 2D like animated, some of them are 3D animated, some of them I believe almost all the characters in the show that aren't 2D animated are actually 3D animated, but they just emulate their styles using 3D. Like Clayton, I think, isn't actually clay. He's just like a 3D model made to look like clay. And the Robinsons are similar. They look like puppets, but I think they're actually just also 3D models. But I think, despite that, it's still a very interesting, memorable look to make the characters stand out. And even though they're not using all those different art styles, at least, I don't know, it still feels very creative and memorable for me. It's just a very, very creative, fun show. And one of the funniest cartoons ever made. It's just like, just thinking about some of the moments from the show just make me crack up. I don't know. Love Gumball. Can't wait for it to come back. What's next? Secret Mountain Fort. Awesome. This is a show I also did watch back in the day for a very similar reason to like the Problem Solvers, but I actually think I liked this one a little more. I don't. I can't say I like the Problem Solvers. No, I mean Secret Mountain Fort Awesome, but I think it's just for me so far is going to go on the top of the meh tier because this one I think had a little bit more going for it than Problem Solvers because Pete Browngart as a cartoonist I think has really come into his own in recent years. I think Uncle Grandpa is legitimately a you know what? If I'm going to talk about Uncle Grandpa anyways, I might as well also rank it right now. It's going to be ranked soon anyways. All right, Uncle Grandpa is going to go in the good tier. Like, but where? I'll put it here. Okay, back to talking about Secret Man Fort Awesome for a little bit, then I'll transition into talking about like Uncle Grandpa more. Secret Man Fort Awesome was like his first cartoon for the channel, and it was like about like these like monsters who think lived in a dump and just like went on random misadventures of like different creative cartoony scenarios. But I just don't remember thinking it was very funny, and also I just remember the show just not looking that appealing. But I do think that what puts it over the problem solvers is the fact that I could feel Pete Browngart's creativity kind of shine through here, even though if Secret Man Fort Awesome wasn't really up my alley, I could feel there was like potential with this specific cartoon creator. So I'm really glad they ended up giving him a second cartoon with Uncle Grandpa, which I legitimately think I'm not sure if it's actually good, but Uncle Grandpa is a show conceptually that just kind of makes me laugh. It's just I've seen like quite a few episodes from it. I haven't seen all of it, but of the episodes I've seen, I just remember like a lot of different like random stupid jokes just getting a chuckle out of me, and it just being like really creative and fun and memorable and just like I don't know. Uncle Grandpa may be a weird premise and a weird show. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think it just like wasn't a lot of people's cups of tea. But I personally thought it was actually really, really funny. Not the funniest thing Cartoon Network's ever made, but still definitely quite funny. All right. Next up would be Teen Titans Go. I have a very interesting opinion on Teen Titans Go. I've seen like easily like over 100, like 150 episodes of the show. Not because I really like I loved it or anything, just because I was curious. Because like about a decade ago, like when everyone was talking up this show, I just kind of wanted to be a part of the conversation. So I like at one point I caught up with the entire show just to be a part of that like conversation, the cartoon community. And honestly, with everything said and done after watching like that many episodes, of course I haven't seen all the episodes. There's like I'm a couple hundred episodes behind in it at this point, but I don't think I ever am like that will ever be that interested to go back and watch the rest. But from what I've seen, I think I'm legitimately gonna put it at the top of okay. It's a very, very much like a mixed bag of a show. But I do think it has some good aspects to it. Like I do really enjoy the art style, even though like a lot of people don't like how simplistic the art style is compared to the original Teen Titans. I do legitimately do enjoy the original Teen Titans more than Teen Titans Go by quite a bit. But I still think that Teen Titans Go has some points of merit for it. Like it has made me laugh quite a few times. I think like actually more than any of the episodes of Teen Titans Go specifically, I remember Teen Titans Go to the movies being specifically really, really funny to me. Like that is a legitimately hilarious movie that I really like. But as for the show itself, even though the humor is very hit or miss, I do think they had some jokes in there that I legitimately did like and legitimately did make me like laugh like quite a lot. Honestly, it did also have a lot of episodes I didn't really care for or didn't really like that much, and a lot of moments that I thought were either gross or weird or uncomfortable. But I don't know. I just feel like this is like for a time, Teen Titans Go is like such a pariah in the like online cartoon reviewers community specifically. And I honestly think the hate was kind of overblown because you could tell that the team behind it, I mean, you might not have agreed with their creative decisions, but you can't say they weren't creative with some of those episodes. Like specifically, I want to talk about Waffles for a bit. Like it is a kind of a stupid premise for an episode, if I'm being honest, but I can't really fault them that much for it because I'm just like it. I don't think I've ever seen a cartoon just try to say the entire like just like use the episode to just say the like one word over and over again. But I do think it's kind of an interesting experiment, and I'm glad that somebody did it because I think it is. I don't know. It was an interesting concept for an episode, even though I didn't like the episode much at all. I don't know. Just a very, very mixed bag of a show, but with some highlights. All right, what's next? Steven Universe is my favorite cartoon of all time. Well, that's debatable actually with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic from the Hub, but it is definitely, definitively one of my top two favorite cartoons of all time. Like, Steven Universe is like a very, very special cartoon to me. Like, specifically, like, I love the characters in the show, I love the art style on the show, I love the music on this show. It's just like, I love literally almost every single thing about this show. It's just like almost perfect, like tailor made for like for me, honestly. Just like it was almost designed like to be my perfect kind of cartoon. Because I love like good story driven cartoons that have a comedic edge to them and also like good fight scenes and stellar moments of animation and good songs and queer representation and all those kinds of things. Like specifically about that last point. Like Steven Universe, I feel like was one of the cartoons that really, really like brought like queer representation to like the younger masses like in a really really positive really really good way like specifically just kind of like it felt like it was trying to normalize it and I think that was a really really good goal to have like specifically I'm not sure if everybody watching this knows exactly who I am but I actually identify as non-binary and I think the like my earliest awakening to figuring that out was actually when I was watching Steven Universe, specifically the episode Alone Together with Stevani. Like when Steven and Connie first fused, when I watched that episode for the first time. I'm like, huh, this episode's sticking with me for some reason, but at the time I didn't really know why. I mean, I know why now, but I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to look back on that moment and just realize like that, like kind of like, oh, that's what that was kind of moment. I don't know. I love Steven Universe. I mean, I know a lot of people say that like it was either never good or it fell off over time, or it was like the fact that it had a rush ending kind of like ruined the show, which I disagree with. Like I know it could have been better if they had more time to do everything they wanted to do with the show, but I am really, really glad that Rebecca Sugar pushed to have like the Garnet wedding like in the last season. That was just like a really, really cool thing to do that I really appreciated them like putting like basically staking their career and like the entire show on that like one moment that kind of like it felt like Rebecca was like putting a stand like taking a stand in the animation industry was like no, I shouldn't have to censor this. I just want to like this. I shouldn't have like any issues like airing this. Just like let me do it. And she had to fight tooth and nail to get that done, but it was aired and it was banned in a lot of countries. And I think it was also the reason why this final season was cut short. But I honestly, in retrospect, I don't really care that much about it because it was such an important moment for like TV animation. I also loved the movie and loved Steven Universe Future as well. I just adore this show so much, and it's very very special to me. I could talk about Steven Universe all day though. Let's move on to the next show before I just like continue gushing about it. Tom and Jerry Tales. Is that what this is? No, this is the Tom and Jerry show, like the one from like the mid 2010s in Cartoon Network. I watched a decent amount of this when it came out. It was fine. I'm gonna put it here. I mean, there's a couple of jokes in the show that did make me laugh, but I just felt like at this point it was like more Tom and Jerry, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I don't think it holds a candle on like the classic 1940s MGM Tom and Jerry shorts. Like those are always going to be like the peak of Tom and Jerry to me. I mean, no, I also do remember like enjoying like the Magic Ring movie and like the Fast and the Furious race movie that had that was kind of like a parody of Wacky Races. If I remember. I don't know. The original Tom and Jerry shorts are always going to be my favorite things from the franchise, but I do appreciate them like experimenting with it over time. I'm honestly not one of those people who thinks that like any sort of like franchise is sacred, honestly. And I'm like, I am very curious to see what some of these companies can do with some of these franchises to try to reinvigorate them. So even if like one experiment like that doesn't work, I don't mind them trying and trying again, as long as they try to make things different. That is, if they're I know, actually, I don't think I agree with that. Even if you're trying to recreate that old feeling, I think that should be fine because, like, is is Pete Browngart's new Looney Tunes on here? Let me see. Oh, it is. Why did I put it here? I've seen it. Yeah, I'm talking about it, so I should rank it now. Like Pete Browngart's take on the Looney Tunes, I think was legitimately really good. I mean, I haven't seen all of them, but I think I've seen like most of like his stuff with Looney Tunes, and I remember like really enjoying it. I think I'm gonna put it there. Like specifically, like he was able to like recreate like that classic Looney Tunes feeling, like and like art style, like almost to a T. Like I think he was specifically like, going for like some of the earliest incarnations like of the Looney Tunes cast, like because like Bugs Bunny had like the yellowish gloves and stuff like that, and like I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that Pete Browngart's Looney Tunes is like the version of Looney Tunes that has felt most like the classic shorts more than anything else they've done like in like the last like who knows how long, honestly. I mean, except for maybe like Looney Tunes Back in Action, honestly. I also love that movie. I'm not sure how much that feels like classic Looney Tunes, though. I guess it kind of does. I don't know. Love that movie. But back to like Pete Browngart's Looney Tunes, I just think it's like really funny, really like I don't know. After the years of Looney Tunes, I do think that they should make more Looney Tunes cartoons and make them differently. But having a show that was like kind of like back to basics Looney Tunes, I think was actually a really good idea for the time, and I do quite like it. All right, what's next? Clarence. I like Clarence. Clarence is fun. I'm gonna put Clarence. Hmm. Which tier? I'm gonna put Clarence in really like tier, honestly. Right here. I don't know. Clarence is just like I know a lot of people don't really like this show, but I think it's very charming, very fun, very like kind of brings you back to like that sense of childlike wonder and just like playing with your friends. It kind of gives me that vibe. It's just like a very comfy, very cozy, like also very creative and funny cartoon. I mean, it's there's a reason why I saw all of it when it originally came out because like I was always curious to see what the show would do next because it was one of those shows where you didn't really know what was going to happen episode to episode. Like, was this episode going to be funny? Was this episode going to be emotional? Was this episode going to be like I don't know, an off the wall like premise like the one episode they did with like they're creating like an old like cartoony Roboco style. I don't know. It just kind of felt like it was one of those cartoons that could literally do anything, and it legitimately had some like episodes I thought were like legitimately hilarious, and other episodes where I actually kind of like almost got emotional with. I don't know, like the episode where Sumo built the boat, or the episode where Clarence's stepdad ran a marathon. There's like some episodes in there that I thought were just like kind of special and I really liked. I don't know. I think Clarence is very underrated, and I really, really like it. Next up, we got Over the Garden Wall. Very short but sweet. I'm putting it here. Yeah, Over the Garden Wall is like it feels like it could have been like a just an animated movie. No, I guess not, because each and every episode of it, like aside from like the last couple, like feel like they were like different, like simple cartoony premises, but with like that kind of like old like European fairy tale or folklore tale like kind of feel to it. So I guess it couldn't have just been a movie, even though it was about the length of one. Let me get a drink real quick. All right. So about Over the Garden Wall. This show, I love the art style of the show. I love the atmosphere of the show. I love the music. I love the music in Over the Garden Wall so much. Like I've listened to the soundtrack of the show so many times over the years. It's just delightful. Like specifically like the Beast song and like the opening like sequence song are just like some of my favorite like music tracks in the cartoon ever. Honestly, they're just so good. It's just honestly, I think my favorite thing about Over the Garden Wall is just like the atmosphere of it. Like the it is like drenched in like that fall atmosphere, and I love it for that because fall is actually my favorite season of the year. I don't know if I said that before, and it just like taps into like almost like Halloween, like not Halloween just quite, but kind of like that, just like general like September to November feel. I guess, nah, I guess kind of Halloween because the show did have a plot point to take place during Halloween, I guess, and that's how that Warching Greg got into the forest in the first place, I think. I don't know. I really love Over the Garden Wall. It's just like really creative, really memorable, really poignant. It's just great. Next up is Sonic Boom. I really, really like Sonic Boom. Where am I gonna place it? I think I'm going to place it here, I think. I don't know. A lot. Say whatever you will with the Sonic Boom games. I actually never have played one of the Sonic Boom games myself, even though I've played quite a few Sonic games. The Sonic Boom cartoon. It's not like exactly what a lot of people would expect from the Sonic franchise in general, especially if they're like used to the more like a lot of the more like story-driven Sonic games. But for what it is, I just think the show is like really, really funny. And I think, like, honestly, this show is what caused me to become like a pretty big Sonic fan. Honestly, it's just like me watching the show made me want to watch more, like just like experience more Sonic stuff. Like, I think after that, I started like doing other things, like playing some more of the games and reading the IDW comics. I also tried to go back and look into the Archie comics, but I don't think I ever really got into the Archie comics that much. I think I just preferred the IDW timeline because it's like what I started with. But like about Sonic Boom, it's just like legitimately this is the funniest the Sonic franchise has ever been, and I really love it. Specifically, like I don't know, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, they were all really good here, but to me the focus characters or like the stand-up characters were Eggman. This is like the funniest Eggman has ever been to me, and also Styx the Badger. I also thought was like a really funny, memorable, likable character. And I don't like that Sega doesn't really use Styx anymore. I mean, it feels like there's just a bunch of characters in the Sonic franchise that Sega just kind of pushed to the side, like the Archie characters and Styx, and also the distinction between like classic and modern Sonic. So like some of the classic Sonic characters like Mighty, Ray, Fang can't appear in like the modern day timeline games anymore. I guess I'm getting sidetracked though. Sonic Boom is really, really funny. I mean, it was kind of, I guess you could say it was kind of repetitive too, but with the action and whatever. But I think that the jokes for the show speak for themselves. And like, it wasn't focused on the action as much or the character work. It was just mostly focused on the comedy. And Sonic Boom had really good comedy. Yeah, really like Sonic Boom. All right, what's next? We Bear Bears is a really, really good cartoon. I love this show, but where would I put it? I think I'd put it right there. So, We Bear Bears, a show about a grizzly bear, a panda bear, and a polar, no, sorry, I mean an ice bear. And just like them going about like their day-to-day lives in like the modern day, basically just like trying to like interact with humans, be get like uh make friends and get internet famous. I don't know. It sounds like it's a very simple cartoon premise, but it's an effective one because like the main characters are just so charming and distinct and just like fun to watch. Honestly, I think my favorite thing about Weeby Bears, honestly, is probably like the side characters and the dichotomy and interactions between the side characters and the bears themselves. Like specifically like Chloe and Ranger Tabes and Charlie the Sasquatch, I think are just like really, really fun, likable, charming characters to have around. It's just a cozy show. Honestly, more than anything else, it's just like a show that you just kind of like turn your brain off, turn it on, and just like let the vibes like wash over you. It's just a nice show. I really like it. I guess I could also just rank Wee Baby Bears now. I think that would be a good time to do this. I'm just gonna say I like Wee Baby Bears, but I didn't see a ton of it. I've seen about like 10 or so episodes of it, and I did enjoy it. But to me, it just didn't really have the same magic as the original series. I'm gonna rank Wee Baby Bears right here. I think is where I'd put it because I think it still had like some of this like crew from the original We Be Bears series like working on like We Be Bears. I'm not sure to what extent. I don't think the main creator came back for it either. I don't think, but I do think it was still a very good show for what it was. But I think it was also kind of shooting for like a younger demographic in the original series. I don't know. We Be Bears is a very interesting franchise, I guess, because I think they also did get the movie a couple of years back. I noticed like We Be Bears is like one of the franchises that like Cartoon Network has been like doing merch for the most recently. Like specifically like in like some of the stores at the mall I have in my town, they have like a bunch of like We Bear Bears merch in there for some reason, and I really like that. All right, what's next? Next up we got like Wabbit. I guess like the new Looney Tunes is what it says in here. I guess they changed the title after a while. This one I thought was I liked it fine. It was good. I was there. Honestly, for like among like the newer Looney Tunes shows, like I think that Wabbit is actually like not as good as the Looney Tunes show or like Pete Browngart's Looney Tunes. But I still did. I think I liked it for what I remember seeing from it still though. I just don't really have like anything specific to say about it like compared to those other two though. I guess it just kind of felt like a more like mid 2010s Cartoon Network y style for Looney Tunes. And I guess that was decent for what it was. I don't know. I just don't really have much to say about that one. I do think I remember liking it better than like Baby Looney Tunes though. And yeah. All right, what's next? Long Live the Royals. Oh yeah, this random miniseries that they aired in 2015 only had 4 episodes for some reason. I watched it back in the day, and I've never rewatched it since then. But I did watch all of it. I liked it. Bottom of good tier. Bottom of like tier. I mean, I don't know. I remember liking the characters and like the world and of this uh this miniseries, but I just kind of wish it was longer so I guess we could actually like get to know some of these characters better. But you know, for what it is, I did enjoy it. I don't really have much else to say about it. I guess the Powerpuff Girls remake. Hmm. I know a lot of people like hate this show. I don't think I personally hate it. I don't like it, honestly. I don't love it. I'm gonna say I would put it like there, like middle of the okay tier. Because even though it is a far cry of quality from like the original Powerpuff Girls, from what I remember watching from it, I don't think I disliked everything about it. I mean, like I do remember like some of the new characters that being kind of interesting, and some of the episodes being kind of like clever and like fun with their premises. I mean, not even close as much to the original series, I think, but and I could definitely see why a lot of people like straight up hated it. Honestly, I don't really like it that much either. I just think it's okay. I really wish that show would have used the original villains more. I believe they did use like Mojo Jojo and Princess decently often, but I don't really remember them using some of the other villains from the original as much. I think they're mostly focusing on like their the new villains they established. I don't know. It was fine. What's next? Mighty Magiswords is an interesting one because of the recent like allegations against the creator of the show. So this is kind of going to be a hard one to talk about because I back in the day I watched all of the show and I did enjoy it, and I'm wondering how death of the author would work for this one. Honestly, if I'm ranking it like honestly, you know, I'm just gonna rank it honestly. Like I know the person who created the show was not a good person, but I did watch every episode of the show, so I can properly rank it. Hmm. I'm gonna put it like despite everything, like more than one person makes a cartoon. Like like for Clarence as well, I think like the creator of Clarence wasn't a good person either, but they ousted him from the show like right as it was like ramping up production, like right as the show started, like that whole story came out and he got fired, rightfully so, and they put someone else on board. But I think there is a reason why the show still continued on after that was like happened. I mean, like they changed the management for like Clarence, so I think it was fine. Like the original person who was the problem no longer worked there. But with that being said, there's still some DNA inherent to like the show's concept and creation that could still house that person's like thoughts and views. I don't know. Like for me, like that story just broke like a couple months ago, so it's kind of still fresh in my mind. I'm gonna put it like legitimately, like if I'm ranking it honestly, here. I don't think I really want to go into details much. I think I'm gonna leave it there. All right, Justice League Action. I like Justice League Action. It's not one of my favorite DC cartoons, but I do enjoy it. It feels like kind of like a grab bag of like, oh, like every single week we're gonna include like a different random deep cut DC character, and it's gonna be like a kind of like a fun and memorable and different premise. I really enjoyed the show. I wish it got more than one season. Like it had like a all-star lineup of voice talent and like a lot of really fun versions of a lot of these characters. Like specifically, like I think it had like Dana Snyder as Plastic Man in here, and I thought he was a really good fit for it. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one of DC's best cartoons. Put it there. Yeah, it looks good. Not too much to say about Justice League Action, I guess. The Ben 10 reboot, I thought was I thought it was also fine. I don't like it as much as the Powerpuff Girls reboot, though. I think I might like it less than that one. I'll put it there, like right underneath it, I guess. It just felt like Ben 10, but more kid friendly and like had that kind of like mid 2010s like Cartoon Network like art style, I guess, that a lot of the shows kind of like had, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I just don't think the art style is the right choice for Ben 10 specifically. I honestly don't really dislike the art style of the Powerpuff Girls reboot that much, but the Ben 10 reboot art style isn't my favorite. Honestly, I really preferred how the original series looked compared to that one, and Omniverse actually as well. But for the show itself, it just kind of felt like a watered down version of Ben 10, but it felt fine. I remember it being fine. Nothing great though. Yeah, not much to say about that one. I don't think. OK KO, Let's Be Heroes is legitimately one of my favorite shows that this channel's ever made. But I have a lot of favorite cartoons from this channel. Maybe I should work down. Maybe I should limit the favorites tier to just the top 10. I think. And we'll work that out later. So I think I'm gonna put OK KO, Let's Be Heroes here. I love this show. It just feels like Ian Jones Quarty had like a sandbox of characters he wanted to include in a show, and he just kind of like included all of them, no matter like what time period or like location of the world they're from. It just kind of like felt like a mismatch of like almost everything like a kid would find entertaining all together in like one like mix. And but it really works, honestly. It honestly feels like it's kind of like a kid playing with a bunch of different action figures and kind of like slamming together to see what happens and making up like their like, own stories and situations with it. But I honestly think that's one of the strengths of OKKO. It just feels just like really creative and unique and just clever and funny. And also, like all of the crossover episodes of the show, I think are just like great. Like the Sonic crossover was like a lot of fun, and the Captain Planet one, and like the Cartoon Network one is honestly like one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Even though I think that that should have been like a movie or at least like an hour long special instead of just like an 11-minute episode, I believe it was. It should have been like 20 minutes at least for a crossover Nexus from OKKO. Like anything more than just 11 minutes. Even though it was only 11 minutes long, though, I still really, really liked it, even though they could have like extended that like potential a lot further. I don't know. I guess I just talk about like more what we got than what I wanted from it, and what I got from it was still really entertaining and fun. I don't know. I feel like even though OKKO ran for over 100 episodes, I think it could have gone on for even longer. Like, the last episode of the show was kind of melancholic because it was a great episode, but it just showed how many other ideas they could have had for the show if it went on longer. I just, I really, really love OKKO and just wish that, I don't know. I hope like Ian Jones Cordy, whatever he ends up doing next, is just like that he enjoys what he's doing and it just like ends up a good project. I mean, I'm sure it will because OKKO is great. So yeah, he'll be fine. OKKO is fantastic. I love the show. Like the characters, the world, the locations, and like all the different references to like almost everything in pop culture. Like it's obviously referencing things like fighting games, like almost like video games in general, mainly fighting games. Because like KO, I think is like almost like an homage to like Ryu from Street Fighter, and like Enid's like almost like Chun Li. Rad is like Piccolo from Dragon Ball, and like Mr. Gar is like Hagar from like Final Fight. So it's like a lot of like video game and anime references like all mashed together, but I think it's just like really fun, really entertaining. Yeah. I mean, I could talk about OKK all day, but I think I should probably get to the next like entry on the list, which is Unikitty. I've seen a good amount of episodes of Unikitty. I liked it. I didn't watch all of it, but I did enjoy what I've seen from it. I'm gonna put it here, I think. I mean, of course, Unikitty being like a spin-off of the Lego movie is pretty apparent, like, because that's where she first appeared, of course. But I think for a show itself, of all the characters from the Lego movie that could have gotten their own series, I think they chose the right character because Unikitty is a character who kind of feels kind of natural as the lead character in a cartoon. I think I don't know. It just feels like that kind of like there are like a lot of creativity to be built around that singular character, which I think the show did prove. I watched like the first like 20 episodes of the show, and I did enjoy it. I don't remember why I dropped off of it, but from what I did see, I thought it was really fun, really cute, really I don't know, just a good time, just a good time. I don't really think I have that much to say about Unikitty, honestly, but I do remember enjoying it. I get another drink real quick. All right, what's next? Next up, we got Craig of the Creek. This is another show I absolutely love. This might seem insane to some people, but I'm putting it in third place so far. I legitimately can't think of a single thing about Craig of the Creek I dislike. It just like has like that sense of childlike wonder, that like just like that like that creativity that comes with like kids playing, specifically in this instance playing in the creek, which is like in a forest by like all these kids' houses, and just like within the creek is almost like it feels like it's like an elevated reality of creativity where like the kids like imaginations almost come to life, even though you know for a fact they're just playing pretend and what's happening on screen isn't actually happening to them. In like the midst of their playing, it feels real to them, and I think that's why what makes like the other side and like capture the flag arcs like so great and so memorable is even though everything that's happening here is just a play session. It feels real and it feels serious because the characters are taking it seriously, even though it's just like a very absurd, over the top situation. Honestly, though, I think my favorite thing about Craig of the Creek are the characters in the show. The characters in the show are incredible. Like, Craig is, like, honestly probably one of my favorite protagonists in the entire channel. JP is just a hilarious and just, like, fun character to be around. Kelsey is, like, my favorite character in the show, and her whole shtick of, like, being, like, an RPG hero adventurer, like main character of a young fantasy like novel kind of thing is just a really fun, really inventive idea for a character, and it really pays off because she's like just a really, really entertaining character to watch. Not only them though, I think a lot of the side characters in the show are really great as well, like Sparkle Cadet, like Ren the scientist, Tomon. There's just so many different clever, interesting, fun characters in the show. And especially like if we talk on the other side again, I think should bring up like Maya. Like she has like probably one of my favorite like redemption arcs for a character in a cartoon. And that may be kind of ridiculous from a show with a premise like this, but I think I agree with that like statement I just made. She like Maya is legitimately like fantastic character. Like her like dichotomy with like Green Poncho Omar is just like really, really compelling stuff. Another thing I want to talk about Craig the Creek specifically, though, is how good it is at like almost all any kind of representation to think of. Craig the Creek does it and does it well. It has like a ton of LGBT representation with like Kelsey and just like Stax and like actually quite a few other characters in the show as well. I think there's like at least like a dozen or so like canonically queer characters in the Craig the Creek, and I think every single one of them is written very well. But also just like different like ethnic backgrounds and like religious experiences. It basically was like a melting pot of like almost every single kind of background a kid could have, but they all like get along and play together well, and just like it just feels like I don't know. It's just a great show. Legitimately like one of my favorite cartoons the channel has ever made. I'm really like it ended very, very well too. I loved the finale, but I'm just kind of sad it's gone because it just ended like last month. It was a really good show. Weird to say was for a show that just ended, though. I don't know. I mean, almost all the shows we covered so far are over, except for like Adventure Time, Regular Show, and Gumball are gone for now, but they're going to come back soon. I don't know exactly when, but they're going to be back soonish. Anyway, moving on. Summer Camp Island. This show I think I've seen like the first two seasons of, but I really, really liked it, so I should probably go back and watch the rest of it at some point. Like, legitimately, top of that tier, I think, is what I'd put for Summer Camp Island. Because this is another show that, like, my main thing about it, like, why I like to watch Summer Camp Island is just, like, how cozy it feels. Like, the atmosphere is just, like, really, really, like, nice. It's just a fun show to just, like, vibe out and chill with. I mean, also, like, I really like the writing and the characters in the world and everything like that, because it's just a very, like, cozy, inviting, like, environment that, like, the show has. And, like, I don't know. It's nice. I don't think it's really like deep or complicated or anything like that. Like some of these other shows on this list, like for my opinions on them. But I don't know. It's just a charming, fun show. What's next? Lauren Faust's DC Superhero Girls. If you know anything about me, like My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic from the Hub is like debatably my favorite cartoon of all time, alongside Steven Universe. But this was Lauren Faust's like first follow-up cartoon after that. And what I gotta say about it is I actually really like it. I don't think I ever finished it though. I watched all of season one definitely. I think I like watched like maybe like halfway through season two or something like that. At some point I should probably go back and finish it because I did actually legitimately really enjoy it. That being said, I should probably rank it too. There, that looks good. Yeah, Lauren Faust's DC Superhero Girls is just A really interesting take on DC. Honestly, I just really like recently that like DC is willing to like let almost everyone do anything with their characters because a lot of DC characters have kind of like been written to death over the years. So like honestly, injecting any sort of like new life into them, I think is like always a good thing. And DC Superhero Girls thing is very emblematic of that because it's very, very like almost instantaneously noticeably like Lauren Faust. And like honestly, a bunch of the main characters in that DC Superhero Girls also do have like very similar personalities to like the main six from MLB. And I'm not don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I think it's kind of fun to like to spot the similarities and the differences between those characters and see how like her character archetypes evolved over time. I don't know. It's a very funny, very creative, very entertaining cartoon. I should definitely go back around to watching the rest of it at some point. I definitely should. DC Superhero Girls, very good show. What's next? Victor and Valentino is an interesting one. I saw all of the first season of the show, but I don't think I ever saw anything past the first. No, I saw one episode past the first season. I saw their I don't think the villainous crossover was in season one though, and that was the only episode of the show I saw past season one. So, Victor and Valentino, I do like it. I think I'm putting it here. I feel like this is the kind of show, though, I actually like the side characters more than the main characters. I didn't hate the main characters in Victor and Valentino, but I feel like the side characters definitely did a lot more heavy lifting than the main characters did. But, like, I guess some other things we should talk about with the show are, like, I really, really enjoyed, like, the different, like, references to, like, Mexican mythologies and, like, all the characters they bring from that. Like, they had, like, the Land of the Dead and, like, a bunch of different, like, references to, like, uh, Mexican myths and Mexican gods and stuff like that. Like I remember like Kamazot's the god of bats was in an episode. And I thought that was a really cool like inclusion. I don't know. I just wish I liked the main characters in Victor and Valentino more because every other aspect of the show I actually really enjoyed. But like I didn't like dislike the main characters or anything. I just thought they were fine. I don't know. I liked it from what I've seen. Mao Mao, Heroes of Pure Heart. If I recall, I believe this show's second season is completely done, but it's just sitting in the Cartoon Network vault to like never be seen again. I really wish they'd just like release it to the public and just like let people watch it. I mean, if I don't know if that was just a rumor or not, or if that was actually true, but I really, really hope that if it was true, they eventually just release it because I really, really liked Mao Mao. Where would I rank it though? Definitely above everything here. I think I'm going to go top of this tier for Mao Mao. It was just really funny, really creative, really, really memorable. It's just obvious, like, that this show is bursting with potential, like, in multiple different ways, like, from a storytelling perspective, from, like, the writers, like, honing, like, who these characters are and, like, their jokes and storytelling skills and stuff like that, along with, like, this is like an easily merchandisable show if Cartoon Network really played their cards right. Like I could definitely see Mao Mao, Badger Clops, and like Adorabat all selling like a lot of plushies if they like ever made any. I don't know. I guess Cartoon Network just doesn't like money. Or maybe it's like the executives, like at Cartoon Network, don't like money or don't know how to make money. I don't know. I don't want to go into details like that right now. That would go into like David Zaslav and the merger and like all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I want to go into that stuff right now. But yeah, Mao Mao is great. I love it. I just wish that there could have been more of it. A very similar story for Infinity Train, I guess. Weirdly enough, even though Infinity Train lasted for 4 seasons and Mao Mao lasted for one, I believe they both had about the same amount of episodes. So Infinity Train is. I'm putting it at the top of this tier. It is legitimately like probably like the latest, greatest show that Cartoon Network made besides Invincible Fight Girl, I guess. We'll get to that. Yeah, like Infinity Train is just like an ingenious concept for like not just like a cartoon, but like a sci-fi concept in general. Like this like train that like people appear on the train with a number on their hand. Like the whole thing in the first season. I guess I shouldn't spoil it if you had nobody's seen it, maybe. But like the whole thing is like the girl like a tulip. She appears in this train with like a glowing number on her hand. And she has to try to figure out what the number means and how to get off the train and go home. And like it's just a really, really interesting, compelling like mystery for the first season. This show is honestly the story is really compelling, but it's also kind of creepy and kind of like horrific at times. Honestly, it just like balances like the characterization and the story and the jokes and the horror all very, very well. I'm really upset that this show never finished. I would have loved to see what like the whole deal with the train was. But I hope Gardner gets back around to it eventually. But I guess as of right now, we might not ever know that information unless they decide to do something with it, or like an NDA is broken or something. I hope that Owen Dennis is like Among Us cartoon actually turns out well. I'd be silly to say, but honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that just because of like his name behind it. I don't know. It could be fun. Infinity Train is fantastic. I love it. All right, moving on. Steven Universe Future. I think this is a weird one to rank. I'm just gonna rank it like, you know, I don't think it's as if we're just ranking this. You know, I'm not gonna put too many semantics on it. I'm just gonna put it right next to Steven Universe. Like I love Steven Universe, and I feel like Steven Universe Future is just kind of like another season of Steven Universe. Yeah, I don't think I have much to add. I already gushed about how much I love Steven Universe earlier. Jellystone. This counts. That was like a Warner Brothers thing. Anyway, Jellystone is a show I really do like. Honestly, I'm putting Jellystone, yeah, here, I think. It's just like this big crossover of like a bunch of like the Hanna-Barbera era like characters, like Yogi Bear and Boo Boo and Huckleberry Hound and Quick Draw McGraw and like Jabberjaw. It's just like a big crossover, like all that era of Hanna-Barbera characters, and like not just that era of Hanna-Barbera characters. Actually, it almost is able to use characters from almost every single era of Hanna-Barbera actually, and it uses them very, very well. It's like C.H. Greenblatt, the creator of Chowder and like Harvey Beaks' third cartoon. You could obviously tell it from the art style and the writing and stuff like that. But I love C.H. Greenblatt's stuff, so of course this show is gonna be up my alley. Like it's just really funny, like really clever, and like a lot of the references to like a bunch of Hanna Barbera stuff is also like really fun as well. Like a lot of like references I got and a lot of deep cuts I had to look up afterwards. It's just like really, really fun to like have a show where you like spot all those references and whatever. Also, I believe sometime this year they're supposed to be airing like a Cartoon Network crossover special for Jellystone. And I know like they're still working on it. I don't think it's been canceled or anything like that. I just like can't wait to see like when it actually comes out and to see what happens with it. Hopefully, hopefully it wasn't canceled. I don't think it was. I think it's still airing. All right, moving on. Unicorn Warriors Eternal. This is an interesting one. This is like the latest cartoon created by Gendy Tartakovsky. And apparently he's had the idea for this for a very, very long time, almost like 20, 25 years, I believe. That being said, it's good. I don't love it. I'm honestly gonna probably be putting it. I think that I'm putting it here. I mean, of course, like the art style of it is supposed to be like an allusion to like the Fleischer era of like animation, and also is like Osamu Tezuka and Astro Boy. And I could definitely see that the art style of the show though is like the best thing about it, I think. I do like most of the characters, but if I'm being honest, I don't think the story of the show is terribly compelling. Like it's more just like the art style more than anything else that I think is like the thing that's really driving like Unicorn Warriors Eternal forward. And don't get me wrong, it's like the animation is fantastic and the art style is gorgeous, but it's just like the content of the show itself when it comes to like the characters and the story aren't really my favorite thing, I guess. Even though I do think they get the job done. I don't know. I just wish I liked it more, I guess. With that being said, I still hope that Gendy Tartakovsky continues to make new cartoons and movies and such because I want to see what the man does. Because after like his long like career in animation, I'm sure he could still come up with like a lot more like memorable and fantastic concepts in the future. I guess time will tell on it though. Next up, My Adventures with Superman. I also think it's weird that they're counting this one because I think this is more like a Warner Brothers thing than a. No, I think they're just counting like anything that aired on Cartoon Network at this point. Even though this and like Invincible Fight Girl didn't actually air on Cartoon Network, I think they only aired on Adult Swim, if memory serves. I'm gonna get drunk real quick. Okay, so My Adventures with Superman is legitimately, debatably, one of my favorite DC cartoons ever. I'm not sure if I'd say I like it more than Teen Titans, though, but it's definitely in this tier somewhere. I think I'm gonna put it here. My Adventures of Superman legitimately has my favorite version of Superman ever, and also probably also my favorite versions of like Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen ever. I just really, really like their interpretations of this character in the show, like making like Superman, like setting it back to basics, and like kind of making him feel like almost like a shonen anime protagonist, like slowly but surely training and gaining his powers over time. I think was a really, really good choice for the show to make it like really compelling. Because like, don't get me wrong, I love Superman, but just having like a god fight against like these like unfathomably strong like villains and creatures kind of could get like overwhelming and just like it feels like oh well, how do you learn that when that happened, like it feels like these mountains of lore built around him. So like having a show like this that kind of like strips the character back and brings him back to basics, I think is just like a really good idea, honestly. Speaking more about the show, I guess it's just like the characterization of the characters is really good. The art style and animation is gorgeous as well, and just like the story is also just really, really good. It's a very like very good story for Superman, just like learning about who he is and where he came from and like what his powers do and where his, like he fits into the world. It's just like, and him learning he wants to like protect humanity from anything that would do wrong to it. It's just a very, very compelling story. A simple but effective one. I don't think a story being simple is a bad thing, though. I think that just means like the quality of the writing would have to shine. But in My Adventures of Superman, the quality of the writing soars because I genuinely love the show. Okay, moving on. Next up, Villainous. This is a very interesting one to rank because I don't think it actually ever. No, I think they eventually got the first season of the show proper, like localized into like the United States. This is interesting because I do really like it. I just wish there was more of it because I think the first season only actually had 6 episodes, and before that was just a bunch of like random shorts and stuff that like were scattered around like YouTube and the internet. I think most of them are actually in Spanish, so I'm like, no, I think they actually did have like dubs for the like a bunch of those episodes. They're kind of like hard to find. So Villainous is just like for what it is, even though it is kind of like hard to find and like kind of more obscure, I guess. It's really funny. I love the art style. I love the main characters. It's just a blast. It kind of feels like it harkens back to like almost like the Adventures of Billy and Mandy, that kind of like atmosphere of a cartoon. I really, really do appreciate that. Like back to that, like also kind of like back to that, like more like shaved like rougher edges like for like the earlier Cartoon Network shows, I guess. I don't know. Villainous is a really pleasing to look at, but it's also just really funny and just really creative. And I do also love how like references where did it go? There it is. How it references like a bunch of other like older Cartoon Network shows as well, and like their villains and stuff like that. I just think it's really really fun. That being said, I do think it's. I don't think I'm gonna put it in like real like tier. I think I'm just gonna put it like I think put in villainous here. That brings us to the Total Drama Island reboot, which is another show I do quite like. Honestly, I'm not putting it next to the original. I genuinely think the original series, like the original season at least of Total Drama, I think is like almost untouchable in like for like the rest of the franchise to ever go back to again. But when it comes to like this remake, I think I'm going to put it. I'll put it here because I do quite enjoy it, but I do notice that it's still I don't think it's still as good as the original season of the original Total Drama series, even though I do really enjoy it. With that being said, this is probably the best cast of characters that they've had since the original season, even though I don't think it's better than the original cast. Like some of my favorite characters here, like Bowie and Wayne and Raj and what was his name? The guy like soda. What was his name again? Whatever. I think just think the show has like a really good, memorable cast of characters, but at the end of the day, it is just more total drama, which I absolutely do not mind at all because I really really like total drama, and it is good total drama. I'm glad they're making total drama again. I mean, did it make again? I don't know. They were really unclear if there's going to be any more of this after this point. I think they said they really wanted people to watch it on Max, even though it was like leaked online like almost like a year earlier than that, and like almost everybody I think already saw it. I'm not gonna like hide it, including myself. I saw like the leaked versions of the show too, and I really enjoyed it. But like with that being said, I'm not sure if we're getting into the season of it. And last but certainly not least, we have Invincible Fight Girl from last year, which is legitimately probably one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows in recent memory. Like at least up until like Infinity Train. It's kind of hard to like. I don't think I could put it in the favorites tier though, because I think that'd be kind of weird. I legitimately though kind of want to put it at the top of this tier for now, even though I think I'm gonna shorten this tier just down to 10. I think I'm gonna like just shave it down to just 10 just to have like more even number. That was kind of like satisfying my mind more, I guess. But Invincible Fight Girl is legitimately like probably the American cartoon that feels like a shonen anime more than any other like ever, at least for what I've seen. Like Andy is such a compelling protagonist. Like you want to see her become a wrestler. You want to see her like succeed and do well in the ring and just like over the season, like the first season is almost exclusively just basically like her training arc almost, even though she doesn't actually get accepted to train with her master until like the end of the season, and a theoretical season two is where that would happen. uh, by the way, I really really hope Invincible Fight Girl gets the second season. I would love to see it, but it's just like the animation is fantastic, the fight scenes are awesome, like legitimately some of the most hype fight scenes I've seen in American cartoon in a very very long time. The characters are lovable and like just very rootable. It's like you really want to see them win their fights, and it's just like a really compelling story, a really interesting world. Honestly, the world of the show kind of reminds me of OKKO, but also just like more grounded. Weirdly enough, even though there's a lot of like out there characters in the show as well. I don't know. Invincible Fight Girl is just like really, really special, and I want to see it do well, and I want to see more of it. Honestly, I'm not sure if we're gonna get more of it, but I really hope we do. And it's just great. Alright, before I end this stream, I want to narrow down this top 10 to definitive top 10. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna take Steven Yea's Future down here. I know I said I've like seen it and I ranked it, but I feel like this is kind of middle of the top 10 to me. So does this look good? Boom, 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 boom. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I need to kick down 2. Honestly, to me, that's pretty simple. I'm gonna kick down Samurai Jack and Powerpuff Girls down to that tier, I think. But now I'm gonna make it even. No, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I think that looks good. So, like, yeah, I guess to give like a quick recap of this list to the end, my top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, my top 10 favorite Cartoon Network shows of all time are Codename Kids Next Door, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, The Amazing World of Gumball, OKKO Let's Be Heroes, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Regular Show, Craig of the Creek, Adventure Time, and Steven Universe. Alright, I guess that's about it. So, see you guys later.